get close up! Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Whoa, Mr. Mash, I just had, like, a total thought, man.
Whoa.
We can talk into a microphone and, like, totally put it on the internet.
Whoa.
Whoa. Where people will, like, totally listen to it, dude.
Like, even the princesses?
Totally princesses, man. Total babes.
Righteous.
Welcome to the 19th episode of the Bangers and Mash Show. I am Mr. Bangers, a.k.a. Zach, and sitting to the right of me, my buddy, my pal, my friend, and yours is...
Mr. Matt, a.k.a. JD.
Yes, my heterosexual life partner. So today is a topic that is interesting topic, and it's one we've been wanting to do for a very long time, since the beginning of the show. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about dude movies.
Dude movies.
And I'm like, whoa.
What exactly is a dude movie?
It is a movie where a bunch of dudes, or two dudes...
Not always, but usually two.
It's usually two that don't normally do anything, have this weird adventure.
That is actually a pretty good description of it, yeah. Because a dude represents a certain type of individual. Somebody who is usually into
rock
or heavy metal music, has
possible drug addictions,
possible drug issues, or they tend to speak in a specific type of language. Lots of dude, totallys, woes, mans, you knows, bogus, excellent, etc.
Excellent!
Something we have to determine when discussing what films to include in our episode about dude movies is what constitutes a dude film exactly. And there are some films that seem to maybe fit the dude story archetype that we eventually decided against. The Cheech and Chong films, Half-Baked, even Tenacious D and The Pick of Destiny, Pineapple Express, Harold and Kumar. Harold and Kumar might possibly still fit. I'll fully admit I have not actually seen any of those movies.
Those, Zach, would fall under the category that we have dubbed the pot movie.
Yeah, a pot film. Even though some of the dudes we're going to discuss either definitely or implicitly indulge in marijuana, none of the films are actually about pot, which distinguishes them from Cheech and Chong or Pineapple Express or films like that, where the consumption of marijuana, the sale of, the production of, etc., is an important part of the story.
Basically, what it comes down to is, does being high thoroughly affect the plot of the movie? Harold Kumar, for instance, they ingest pot and then decide that they are going to go to White Castle, which is actually just right down the street.
But a wacky adventure ensues.
Yeah. And they meet, Doogie Howser or whatever that guy's name is.
But for us, there are really three dude combos that are...
essential.
Yes, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. And that's why you're my dude.
That's right, we're bros.
Excellent!
The first of those three essential dude pairings is, in a lot of ways, responsible for that cliche propagating for pop culture. And you know who I'm talking about.
It's Ted Theodore Logan.
And Bill Preston Esquire. 1988, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. This movie is as old as we are, JD.
Wow. Why couldn't our future be like these movies?
Why couldn't our future have totally sweet music?
With George Carlin.
Exactly. Yeah, our future doesn't have George Carlin. That
exactly.
does make me sad. Now, what is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure about? What is so excellent about this adventure specifically?
It's been a long time since I've seen this one, but isn't it in order to pass a history project or something, they go back in time to talk to all the history?
Why is it vital that they pass the history exam? The story is, in the future, this band named Wild Stallions will bring about a utopian society. However, in order to ensure that this future comes about, people from the future have sent a messenger and a time-traveling phone booth to 1988 California to make sure that the two main members of Wild Stallions, Bill and Ted, pass their history exam, because if they don't pass their history exam, Ted's dad will send him to military school.
Oh, yeah, that I remember.
And for some reason, they deduce that the way to pass the history exam is to go through time and gather a number of historical figures, instead of just studying, I guess, for some reason.
Oh, that would be the easy way.
Yeah.
That'd be the hard way.
Now, who plays Bill and Ted, JD?
Well, I know Ted is played by Keanu Reeves. And Bill is... Hold on. Bear with me. Alex Winter.
Keanu has gone on to the more successful career, I think it's fair to say.
But Alex Winter was in Lost Boys. That's that
He
movie.
was in Lost Boys. He both starred and directed Freaked, one of my all-time favorite films. And another one of my all-time favorite films, of course, Death Wish 3.
Amen, brother.
A young Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, they had such perfect back and forth together. And one of the things that really works about this movie is even though they're both kind of idiots, they're both really sincere and sweet. They're likable. They're likable people, Bill and Ted. You want to spend time with these guys.
They're about enjoying life to the fullest.
As you mentioned earlier, yes, George Carlin is this film. He plays Rufus, the messenger from the future. The film actually opens with this little speech from him about how the future is wonderful. Bowling averages are up. Mini golf scores are down. Very much a George Carlin line there. Interesting that this comedian known for his subversive, somewhat vulgar comedy would participate in what's essentially a kid's movie. One of this movie's great contributions to pop culture is Dude Speak. Obviously, Dude Speak existed before this film. Sean Penn in Fast Times at Ridgemont High really brought that to the wide, non-California world. Perhaps first? Perhaps.
But Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure perfected it.
Exactly. Watching this movie again recently, I had to wonder, is one of the whole jokes of the movie that Wild Stallions is terrible? Really stupid, awful hair metal brings about utopia? Is that the whole joke?
I don't know.
Because in 1988, that's what popular music sounded like. You watch it now, today, and you realize it's completely corny and ridiculous, but at the time, lots of bands sounded like that. The history exam has a very wide status here, because they're talking about Genghis Khan in early century China. They're talking about Joan of Arc in France during the 1400s. So this history exam is all over the place. The main threat of the plot is that if Ted doesn't pass his history exam, he'll be sent to military school. Why is Ted's dad such a prick?
In the 80s, that's how parents were viewed.
So how did such an asshole raise such a stoner son?
Well, let's put it like this, Zach. Did you want to grow up to be like your dad?
Both parents are kind of fucked up, though, because Bill's dad is a little weird. His stepmom, one of the best jokes in the movie, is that Bill's stepmom is only about 4 years older than them. Ted is constantly saying to Bill, your stepmom is cute. His response is, shut up, Ted. Remember when I was a freshman and she was a junior and I asked her to prom? Shut up, Ted. Beyond the huge age difference, the fact that his dad is this 40-something with a beard and his stepmom is maybe 18, 19, 20 years old, they have sex in Bill's room. Bill and Ted are in there talking about their history exam, and they passive-aggressively force him out of the room to fuck on his son's bed. Ugh.
It's the 80s.
I don't think that's right in any decade.
I think that was the joke.
At least wait until the kids are out of the house. One of the things about these movies, the scripts are actually really well written. There are little jokes that are set up in the beginning of the movie that aren't paid off until the very end. In this movie, recurring joke about Ted's dad has lost his keys, and at the end of the film you find out why. And at the same time, it also gives the impression of being made up on the spot because it has improvised tone. So the phone booth. They travel through time in a phone booth. I think a lot of Doctor Who nerds would like to point out that Doctor Who did it first.
Yeah, but Bill and Ted did it better.
And technically Doctor Who is a police booth. Not that kids today know what either of those things are. Who are the historical figures they gather through time, JD?
Well, Abe Lincoln.
Okay, let's start with Napoleon.
Well, I mean, sure, you can go to Napoleon.
Yeah, they bring Napoleon through time first. First off, it's a common misconception. Napoleon was not actually short. Napoleon is actually brought into the present accidentally. He shows up in our time, and he is a pretty amusing character. This end up taking him to places like an ice cream parlor. They take him to a bowling alley, and he cheats, which prompts Ted's little brother to say Napoleon is a dick. Of course, naturally, the big joke is they take him to a water park named Waterloo, where he becomes obsessed with water slides. That's the level of humor going for here, folks.
The next one was Billy the Kid, wasn't it?
The time travel begins proper when they go to the Wild West and meet Billy the Kid. How come nobody in the past notices that these two teenagers from 1988 in the pastel shirts and the sweaters tied around their waist, nobody notices that they're dressed like that in the past?
Maybe they think they're wizards.
That weirdly doesn't come up. Who's the next one they gather? From ancient Greece. Don't remember Socrates?
I don't remember it.
Man, you really need to rewatch.
I told you, it's been a while.
Oh, alright, well, let's get through this one quickly. Go back to ancient Greece, they get Socrates, they impress him by memorizing the lyrics from Kansas's Dust in the Wind, but they don't speak ancient Greece, so they have to pantomime dust, wind, dude. 16th century England, somehow they dress up in knight armor and they pick up swords and start lightsaber fighting. Ted tumbles down the stairs. Some of the knights see him, stab him, which causes Bill to reply with, "You killed Ted, you medieval dickweed." But it's okay. Ted's not dead. Ted's okay, because he somehow fell out of his armor very quickly. I'm not sure how that's possible, but he did it somehow. And they hug, and then they break apart and say, "fag." Not politically correct these days. This is where they meet the loves of their lives, the princesses. When they get to the 16th century England, Billy the Kid and Socrates steps out of the time booth. And one of the guys said to Billy the Kid, "You are dealing with the oddity of time travel with great ease." And as they walk off and have their adventure, Billy the Kid and Socrates begin to play with a frisbee. Their adventures in 16th century England ends when the king finds them and says, "Put them in the Iron Maiden," which of course causes Bill and Ted to say, "Excellent." He follows up by saying, "Execute them." Bogus. Their adventure through time has taken a most serious turn at this point, but luckily they're rescued. Billy the Kid and Socrates save them. They have a brief detour off in the totally awesome future. They deliver a message of peace accidentally. A sequence I really like is when they go get Joan of Arc. She's praying at an altar when this time booth falls out of the sky. Genghis Khan, Sigmund Freud, and Abraham Lincoln. Why is Abraham Lincoln inherently funny?
He's a tall guy with a funny hat.
The hat, the beard, he's all tall and gangly.
He is so serious in such a funny movie.
When people want to make fun of a historical president, Abe Lincoln is almost always the one they go with. It's just because he's so recognizable, because he had such a distinctive look.
He's probably the most recognized president.
The movie is quite amusing up to this point, but it gets extremely funny when they take the historical figures back to the present. They lure Genghis Khan into the time booth with a Twinkie, and they introduce all of the historical figures with these made-up names. Bob Genghis Khan. They take all the historical figures to the mall, which leads to some pretty amazing things. Genghis Khan going on a rampage for a sporting goods store, Joan of Arc becoming obsessed with aerobics, Billy the Kid, Socrates, and Sigmund Freud are trying to pick up chicks in the food court. Freud is eating a corn dog. When the girls shoot them down, his corn dog falls. Dirty joke they snuck into this PG movie. They end up getting arrested, taken to prison. They use time travel inventively, where they say, "I know, after we're done here, we'll go back in time and leave notes and traps for other people." But when the historical figures are being interrogated at the police station, police psychiatrist asks Sigmund Freud, "Why do you believe you're Sigmund Freud?" And Sigmund Freud's response is, "Why do you claim I am not Sigmund Freud? Tell me about your mother." Ted's dad is getting Abraham Lincoln's information. "What's your name?" "Abraham Lincoln. L-I-N. I know how to spell Lincoln." So anyway, after this wacky, convoluted adventure through time, they do get back to school in time to present their history exam. And they have all the historical figures come out and do this presentation. Freud analyzes Ted and then asks Bill what his problem is. "Oh, I'm fine. I just got a minor Oedipal complex." They've passed their history exam. The future has been restored. Rufus returns to them with a pair of guitars and says, "May I jam with you?" Does this awesome guitar with, it's really obviously not George Carlin's hands. This causes Bill and Ted to play their instruments, which is just noise. George Carlin looks into the camera and says, "They do get better." So that's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. This is a good one. It's a very funny film, and I just forget how funny it is.
Well, this one just doesn't stick with me as much as the sequel.
2 or 3 years later, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Instead of doing time travel, what's the theme here?
This evil guy from the future made these bad robot us's and sent them back in time to kill us. When we were in heaven, we talked to God, and he told us to find station to build us good robot us's, and we were like, whoa.
You missed a couple of important things there, but Bogus Journey is much more surreal. It's very loopy. I guess the first one was successful enough that they could just say, let's do something really crazy for the sequel. The future, where everybody dresses in foam.
Yeah.
The future is made of foam. There's an evil mad scientist named Dinomalos, and what that actually is Ed Solomon, one of the writers. It's his name backwards. But he hates Bill and Ted for some reason. He despises the utopian future they have brought about. He creates evil robot Bill and Ted's and trying to send them back in time, kill the originals, replace them, and ruin their legacy, therefore never bringing about the future. Though you would think that would also prevent him from being born, but, you know, maybe they have a time paradox corrector in the time booth or something.
Maybe.
What about the evil robot us's?
They're dicks.
They are far funnier than they should be.
Yes, they are.
Because they just show up and do abrasive, mean-spirited things. But you can tell that the two actors were really having a good time playing evil characters.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the special effects in this movie, though, when they peel their faces off and their robot skulls underneath. That's kind of intense. In the present, in this case means 1991, Bill and Ted have still not made Wild Stallions happen. They have the princesses, they have a band, they seem to have learned to play to a degree, but they're still not there yet, though they do propose to the princesses.
To the princesses?
Yes. Do they have names?
No, they just refer to them as the princesses.
I think they might have names.
They do.
It's not really important. First movie, Ted is really into the princesses, but Bill seems less concerned, and in this one, they each get one, so I don't know, I guess it works out. They seem okay with it. Oh, they were brought into the future, by the way, at the end of the first movie. Probably should have mentioned that first.
Yeah.
And it's sort of interesting just to see how much Keanu and Alex Winter aged in the 2 years between movies.
Yeah.
They look really different. Also, Pam Grier's in the film, looking incredible as the lady who's running the Battle of the Bands, and that's their goal in this film. The first movie, the goal was to pass the history exam. In this movie, the goal is to win the Battle of the Bands. Bill's stepmom in the first movie is now married to Ted's dad. Keeps switching old men. They get engaged. The evil robot usses appear and begin to mess around. And what do the evil robot Bill and Ted do to the biological good Bill and Ted?
They killed them?
They totally kill them. When they're about to throw them off of the mountain, they say, "But we love you, dude." Thanks! And then they hawk loogies up on them as they're dead.
Yeah.
Well, the place they die is Vacquez Rock. You see that in a lot of old movies and TV shows, most specifically the Gorn episode of Star Trek, which they are watching on TV earlier in the film. Rewatching this one this time, I felt that it has kind of a slow start. That first act is a bit slow, but then Bill and Ted die. They die. They're dead. They are fucking dead.
Deathman is dead.
What happens is the Grim Reaper appears, determined to take them to the afterlife. And how do they escape from the Grim Reaper?
Don't they give him a wedgie?
Yes, they Melvin him. I'm not sure what a Melvin is, but I guess it's a really, really bad wedgie. So now Bill and Ted's souls are running around. Evil Bill and Ted are making a mess of things. They're ruining the relationship with the princesses. You know what we haven't friggin' mentioned? One of the most important things about these movies?
The air guitar?
The air guitar. We didn't mention the fact that they punctuate their sentences by making air guitars, and the best part is a real sound effect plays. The viewers can't see us doing that, but
we're air guitaring right now.
Yeah. When they're ghosts, one of the things they do is Ted possesses his own father, trying to convince the police department to go get the evil robot usses. It doesn't really work out for him. Bill possesses his deputy. Why inside of his father's body he does an air guitar, but instead it's acoustic guitar?
Yeah, I remember that.
There's a seance involved. The point is, Bill and Ted, they go to hell. Their souls are banished to hell. This is when the movie gets weird.
Crazy.
It gets very strange from this point. Once they're in hell, they're on a floating rock, there's a giant devil.
Well, you're failing to mention that when they first get to hell, it looks like a classic rock album cover.
Well, no, it does not. Because our album covers totally lied to us, man.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
Each character has their own personal hell. There's this very surreal... They're at boot camp, because earlier in the movie, you got to meet the drill instructor. There's some wonderful sequences where a drill sergeant is taunting Bill and Ted. There's some wonderful dialogue there. He tells them to do infinity push-ups. Ted says, "There's no way I could possibly do infinity push-ups." Some of the things the drill sergeant says, "You're silky boys. Silk comes from the butts of Chinese worms." And a bunch of other weird shit happens in hell. There's a demonic bunny rabbit. They're being chased by the military instructor. They're being chased by the demonic Easter bunny. They're being chased by Bill's grandmother, also played by Alex Winter under heavy makeup, which causes them to say, "Dude, hell sucks." The only way to escape the afterlife is to challenge death to a game, and if they win, they can go free, but nobody's ever won before. This is sort of weird. This is a reference to The Seventh Seal, a very famous expressionistic art film from the 50s, starring Max von Sydow. He's a knight on the Crusades. He plays chess with death. It's well known to cinematiques. I don't know if it's really all that well known to the kind of teenagers in malls I would have been seeing this movie in 1991. So it's a really out-of-left-field, wacky reference. But they don't play chess with death. What games do they play?
Oh god, I can't remember.
You sunk my battleship.
Yeah.
Play Battleship, and they win, to which Death is flabbergasted and says, "That's 2 out of 3. They play Clue. "No, dude, it's Colonel Mustard." Electric football. Death is staring angrily at the little electric football players spin around. This is when the movie gets incredibly
awesome.
Amazing, yes. William Sadler plays the Reaper, and he
nails it.
Can't even put into words how amazing. He really just owns it. No way! Yes way. Death, after losing at Twister, eventually decides that he has been beat. The Reaper is tied to them to do their bidding. And they decide that they have to find a brilliant scientist to build them good robot usses. So they go to heaven. In order to get into heaven, they mug some random people. The Grim Reaper is put in a dress. They meet God, who is illustrated as a giant glowing ball of something and seems to like them. And this is when the second best new character in the movie is introduced. God sends them to the most brilliant scientist in all of the universe, whom they incorrectly assume at first to be human, but in actuality is not human.
It's Station.
Two weird-looking alien things. What exactly does Station look like?
Honestly, male genitalia.
A little bit. They look a little bit like aardvarks.
They look like life-size Fraggles.
They have Fraggle elements. They look a little bit like dinosaurs with hair. They're these strange...
I'm going with hairy penises is what they look like.
They're strange creatures, delightfully odd. How do you destroy evil robot versions of yourself? You build good robot versions of yourself. That's obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
It's a natural conclusion. That's how... And that's something you see in a lot of these dude movies. They have their own specific brand of logic.
But it somehow works out in the end.
Station, everything about that character is just so delightfully odd. There are two of them. These two little, about 4 feet tall alien creatures. I think they share a single mind, because at one point they leap into each other and fuse into an 8-foot tall version of Station.
Then doesn't Bill or Ted make the comment, Station, you have the most bodacious butt, or something like
yes,
that?
Yes, they do comment Station on his butt. The Reaper immediately becomes jealous of Station. What about my butt? I work out. Reaping burns a lot of calories.
Oh god, this is turning into a quote fest.
It's on the way there.
What I like about the good Robot Us's, they build the good Robot Us's out of aluminum foil and
a blender,
PVC pipe. The greatest mind in all of the universe builds what looks like trash come to life.
Advanced robots out of common household objects. Evil robot Bill and Ted are about to perform at the Battle of the Bands. They have princesses strung up by ropes at the top of the stage. They're going to kill the princesses at the end of their performance. It's either hilarious or disturbing. The robots make repeated references to getting full-on robot chubbies. And at one point they play basketball in the apartment, but Robot Bill gets decapitated on the ceiling fan, so his head is going around, and they're playing basketball with it. But they do arrive in time, they save the princesses. The good Robot Us's that are remote control and move in this jerky, robotic fashion literally knock the evil robots' heads off. However, the movie's not over yet. Dynamalos comes from the future into the present to destroy Bill and Ted with his own hands. This is when the movie gets very abstract. When we beat you, we'll put a cage there. Cage falls on him. Ah, but when I win, I shall hide a key here! Yeah, but we'll just trick you into thinking that. And they do succeed in defeating the evil, though the villain inadvertently brings about the future he is seeking to destroy. Because when he arrives at the Battle of the Bands, he has this device that hooks every television in the world to this one event. Every television in the world is seeing this. When they defeat him and they perform their most triumphant performance, everybody in the world sees it, and thus Wild Stallions becomes the biggest band in the world. So the villain inadvertently creates the future he's seeking to destroy. Everybody becomes a part of the band. The princesses are on drums and keyboards. Death plays a giant upright bass. Station's on bongos. The robots are backup dancers. They play God Gave Rock and Roll to You by Kiss. Over the credits, there's this montage of air guitar depletes Mog. Wild Stallions plays Middle East. Peace ensues.
It's one of those rare sequels that's better than the original.
I personally actually don't think it's better than the original.
Your opinion is invalid and wrong.
I enjoy this movie immensely, but it's not as funny as the first film. But it's just so inspiredly weird. The characters in the film are incredible. No doubt about it.
Well, as we all know, my opinion is the only one that matters. My opinion is right, yours is wrong. Let's move on to the next one.
It's Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. This is not the end of the Bill and Ted universe. There was a cartoon series.
Was there comic books?
There were comic books.
What about video games?
There were a bunch of video games.
No.
Yeah. Whoa, indeed. I haven't actually seen any of these things, but yes.
I vaguely remember the Bill and Ted cartoon.
I do not. But there were actually 2 different seasons. The first season was produced by Hanna-Barbera, and everybody came back to voice their characters. Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, even George Carlin. Every bit in time they would go to a different historical period, meet some famous historical figure, and they would usually be voiced by a guest star. But then the second season was produced by Deke, and they lost all of the original voice talent, and supposedly the second season is not as good. There was a live-action television series.
Did it star Keanu Reeves?
No. It had nobody from the movie. Very short-lived. You can't even find that one on YouTube.
Wow.
Apparently, there was a whole series of comic books published by Marvel, and apparently the comic books are very good, because the original screenwriters wrote those. I remember playing at least one of the video games. Yeah, not a lot to say about that.
Station!
But what do you think about the possibilities of us getting a third Bill and Ted movie, JD? What are your thoughts on that?
All I gotta say is, if it happens, it'll be amazing. But what would it be called? Would it be Awesome?
I've always personally thought Bill and Ted's Most Righteous Quest would be the one to go with.
This would be a most righteous quest.
They say this is most non-heinous.
Well, that's the fourth film.
Yeah, Bill and Ted's non-heinous journey, or Keanu Reeves, who's obviously a pretty big star, Alex Winter, not so much. They have talked about wanting to do this. Apparently the original writers have written a script. There's even a teaser poster. What would a third movie be about, JD? What do you think? Where do you go?
I think it would be Bill and Ted dealing with the fall of classic rock, classic hair metal being no more, and more importantly, why hasn't the utopia set in yet?
In an interview or on Twitter or something, Alex Winter said, that's actually kind of what it would be about. Been 30 years, and a utopia still hasn't happened. What's taking them so long? But I feel like that's the wrong path to go. The right path to go is that Bill and Ted succeeded at the end of the second movie. Wild Stallions is huge, they brought about utopia, and now they're living in that utopia when, I don't know, aliens kidnap the princesses or something, I don't know, something happens. Because I feel like you gotta go to space. You did time, they did the afterlife, space is the next logical step.
What about George Carlin?
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem. George Carlin has passed away. If they want to do the third film, Rufus passed away. Bring in Rufus Jr. or something. Rufus's daughter, I don't know.
What if you see Rufus die in a horrible explosion, but you never see his face?
No, see, that would be disrespect. If they're going to do a third film and they feel like they need to address that, it should be that he passed off screen. It should be dignified. I mean, who knows if a third film will happen? Like I said, there's a script. Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter want to do it, but apparently there's no interest from the studios. Apparently to this day, Universal Studios, Universal Park, still has like the Bill and Ted rock and roll show. I
think the trouble they're having is it's been 30 years. Well, not quite.
And unlike a couple of 20 years later sequels, I don't think Bill and Ted have endured to the point of, say, Star Wars or Indiana Jones. Dang! That's the first most triumphant dude duo.
You know what my favorite show in 1992 was?
What was your favorite show in 1992, JD?
Wayne's World! Wayne's World!
Party time.
Excellent!
Excellent. As I was about to say before, you totally interrupted me, dude. Who is the second most essential dude couplet?
Well, it'd be Wayne and Garth.
Wayne and Garth. Bill and Ted are maybe obscure these days. Wayne's World is adored to a certain... 90s nostalgia is huge right now. Early 2000s nostalgia is huge right now.
Let's drop that.
Yeah. Wayne's World is maybe the most 90s movie ever made. The hair, the music, the fashion, the technology. Wayne and Garth. First off, who plays them?
Mike Myers plays Wayne, and Dana Carvey plays Garth.
These characters were first created for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, but the movie perfected them.
And this is the only good Saturday Night Live movie. Well, this and the Blues Brothers. The Blues Brothers and Wayne's World are the only good Saturday Night Live movies. All the others are terrible.
What about Night of the Roxbury?
Really? You're gonna go to bat for Night of the Roxbury?
Yes, I am. Because that movie is so, oh my god, awful that it's almost entertaining.
Who are these characters?
They have this cable access show.
That they film out of Wayne's
basement. Wayne's parents' basement. And they somehow still have the money to afford guest speakers.
On SNL, they had real rock bands on all the time.
Basically, they're massive losers.
Are they massive losers? Question mark. Wayne still lives with his parents, even though he's at least in his 20s. Even though they're much older, they still have this sort of arrested development teenage personality. Are they losers? Run a TV show. They
run a TV show, and Wayne ends up getting a really hot girlfriend.
It's questionable how big of losers are, but they are best friends.
Yes, they are best friends.
They're very close.
We're almost like Wayne and Garth here.
We had this discussion earlier over dinner. Wayne's World is set in Aurora, Illinois.
Which nobody heard of until the movie.
It's a real place. The film paints Aurora as weird. All the clubs and local businesses have very odd gimmicks. And one of the things that's interesting about Wayne's World as a movie is the audience is a character.
Yeah.
Several times throughout the film, Wayne or
they break the fourth wall.
Yeah, they do. They break the fourth wall. They address the audience directly.
One of my favorite sequences in the movie.
Mm-hmm. What level of reality is this set on? On the cable access show, they address the audience all the time, but in real life, when they're just going around doing their thing, who are they talking to? Other characters in the film seem aware of the audience.
I don't know. Maybe they're just breaking the fourth wall. It's an artistic thing.
Raises some questions. What's the plot of Wayne's World? Obviously, you have these two guys. They do a public access show out of their basement. By the way, public access, does that even exist anymore?
I don't even really know what the plot of this movie is, honestly.
Okay, well...
It's one of those movies you just watch and go with.
There is a plot. There is a story.
basically they start out as just their everyday thing. They're going out to party at these different bars, and Wayne sees Cassandra.
She's a total babe. If she was a president, her name would be Abraham Lincoln.
She will be mine.
Oh, yes.
Well, yes,
She will be mine.
Rob Lowe and his girlfriend are watching TV, and they're flipping through channels, and they see the sucking cut.
Yeah, the suck cut.
Well,
Well,
it
it
certainly
does suck. It's sucking my will to live. Don't give me a buzz cut or anything, okay? Rob Lowe's character, what does he do for a living?
TV scout?
Rob Lowe is trying to acquire Wayne's World as a television program to sell it, to be sponsored by this arcade. Wayne's in love with Cassandra. This is a romantic subplot. There is a story, but it is used more or less as just a joke delivery
It's an abstract story.
Maybe, this movie was everywhere in 1992. Huge hit. And I think one of the reasons why the film was so popular is one of the opening gags in the film is they're in the Murphmobile, Garf's car, this blue pacer with flames painted on the side. And what are they singing to, JD?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
That was bigger than the movie itself, that scene. Headbanging during the guitar solo. Not only did it make the song huge again, it was in all the trailers. They sold the movie with that scene. Is it the greatest sequence in cinema history?
Possible about that. Dana Carvey forgot to memorize the words for the song.
And if you watch the movie, that is really, really apparent. Hard to believe that that's so early in the movie. The credits are still playing during that sequence, establishing Aurora as a stage. They're driving around the town, and you see some of the weird local attractions for Aurora. Joe's Chicago Pizza. The one I always remember are the cars impaled on this giant spike in the middle of town. Was that there? Did they build that for the movie? What the hell? In my opinion, this is Mike Myers' best movie. Hands down. And it's
probably anybody in that movie's best movie.
And it's probably Dana Carvey's best movie, too. But
probably the guy that played Ted Bundy? No, not Ted Bundy.
And Ted Bundy was the serial killer.
Al Bundy.
Al Bundy. The supporting cast in this film. The leads are great, but the supporting cast is awesome. There's the perpetually wasted friend they pick up at the beginning, and he shows up a couple of times, always under the influence of some controlled substance. The cop who is obsessed with body cavity searches. My favorite is Glenn, the owner of Stan Makita's Donuts, played by Ed O'Neill, otherwise known as Al Bundy. Not Ted Bundy, Al Bundy.
Al Bundy.
Who also, for some reason, is aware of the audience and frequently goes on these bizarre, disturbing rants.
Isn't there one point where Wayne goes, yeah, that's enough?
I love that character. That is some of the funniest shit in this movie. I know what you want to do. You want to find the guy who did it, and you want to rip his still beating heart from his chest and show it to him just so you can see how black his own heart is before he finally dies. Why is it when a man kills another man in war, it's honorable? But when a man kills another man in an act of passion, it's a crime. You know, when you stab a man in the dead of winter, steam escapes from his body. The Native Americans thought it was his soul ascending to heaven.
Speaking of Native Americans...
Well, Milwaukee's had many visitors.
The Indians who called it Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land. Some of the other supporting cast, Garf's dream woman. Dana Dixon, Mrs. Dan Aykroyd. Yeah, seriously. Plays Garf's dream woman. Then there's Stacy, Wayne's ex.
I got you something, Wayne.
It's a gun rack.
Stacy, I don't own a gun.
Much less enough guns to facilitate the need for a rack.
To necessitate a gun rack.
And when that scene is happening, Garf always goes to the donut shop and orders a jelly donut, and he puts a straw in it and sips the jelly out of the straw. First off, why isn't there a 24-hour donut shop in this area, damn it? Because sometimes I want fucking donuts at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Isn't Dunkin' Donuts 24 hours?
No, it is not. And then when they sell out of donuts, they're sold out. At least our local one. Because I went there once at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and they had no donuts. Dunkin' Donuts had no donuts. What kind of Kafka-esque universe have I stumbled into? Paramount's King's Dominion, back in the day,
the Hurler,
used to have an entire section of the park devoted to Wayne's World. And yeah, there was a coaster called the Hurler where all the cars were painted like the Murphmobile. And they had a real Stan Makita's donut shop. Of course, it's long gone now, which makes me mad. I really want to go there. Other supporting characters in this movie. Kirk Fuller plays Russell, who works for the television station. And he is one of the squarest guys ever, but slowly he is absorbed into the group. Among the group is Terry.
The platonic love
can exist between two men. Yeah, because among the group is Terry, this guy whose whole shtick is going up to people and saying, I love you, man. I know. No, man, I really love you. Just these weird, perfect, memorable little characters that exist. Wayne goes to the gasworks, where the bouncer is Meatloaf, by the way.
I knew that.
The Shitty Beatles. The Shitty Beatles, are they any good? They suck. So it's not just a clever nomenclature.
The movie is more clever than people think it is.
Oh, it's incredibly well written. It's so funny. But yes, Cassandra, who's played by Tia Carrera during the peak of her hotness.
Oh my god.
She is amazing in
Gorgeous,
this.
intelligent, can kick ass.
Oh.
And is an actual black belt in
So
martial
hot.
arts, people. I just wanted to point that out. That way, when they saw her kicking ass in that bar.
Yeah, that's true. She does kick ass. Wayne is immediately obsessed with her. Mike Myers is not exactly a handsome guy. As unbelievable as it is, weirdly, their romance is kind of sweet. They're in the car driving somewhere, and he starts singing Hey Mickey. And they start singing that together. It actually works somehow, even though it's hard to believe that somebody who looked like Tia Carrera looked in 1992 would have any interest in...
Wayne even goes through the difficult task of learning Cantonese.
Let's talk about the subtitle scene. They're talking, and he says, I only know a little bit, but then they have this esoteric conversation. A part of me feels responsible for my ex-girlfriend, and she's pretty, but has no self-esteem. At one point, he says something very shortly in Cantonese, and the subtitles keep rolling for like another minute. Anyway, he asks her for her number. She gives her a number. He is Zang, which is excellent.
There you go, viewers. You have been educated. You now know one word in Cantonese.
I don't really think that's Cantonese.
It better be.
Every other line of dialogue in this movie is a friggin' classic.
We missed one big scene in the bar.
Yeah, we did. Garf is in line.
Yeah, excuse me.
What do you want, Trimp?
Can I get through, please?
That doesn't go well for Garf.
And then he goes out to the Mirthmobile, gets this weird curling iron shaped taser thing.
Excuse me. What do you want, Shrimp? Sir! The guy goes into a table, flings across, Garf tosses it.
Sticks it back in the holsters.
Every time Wayne sees Cassandra, Dreamweaver plays, and Garf's reaction is, she gives me a funny feeling, like when we used to climb the rope in gym class. I was telling JD earlier, this movie has aged surprisingly well, even though it's so deeply 90s. But when they're driving away from the club, they stop at this very nice car, roll down the window, and ask the guy in the car, oh, excuse me, pardon me.
But do you have any Grey Poupon?
And the old man in the car glares at them.
Now, we're not going to tell them what the reference is.
Okay.
I want our viewers to write us back and tell us what that's a reference to.
That's a very specific reference, a cultural artifact from the early 90s. When Wayne is trying to learn Cantonese, they're in a car shop. Garf is playing with a rivet gun, and then he loses control, leaves this giant gash in this other car. Benjamin is a dick, and he takes Wayne and Garf to this tiki bar to buy the show from them. Benjamin says, I have 2 contracts for $5,000 each, but I know you guys have ethics and you don't want to sell out like that. And Wayne's reaction is, squeeze me? A baking powder?
Yeah.
Garf throws his pen on the floor and talks into the camera about, I saw this episode of The Twilight Zone once where the guy signed this contract and they cut his tongue out and they put it in a jar and it just kept growing and making little baby tongues and it wouldn't die. Totally unrelated to the rest of the movie. Just this bizarre, hilarious little...
Well, apparently all this is supposed to allude to Garth wanting to kill Ben.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie, they unwillingly make a lot of compromises to make Wayne's World into a real show. One of which is they have the Noah's Arcade guys on, and Wayne is given some cards to ask these pre-approved questions to their sponsor, and on the opposite side of the cards, he's written some things.
Sphincter says, what?
What? Anyway, but at one point, Benjamin is trying to have a conversation with Garf, and there is this hand...
A robotic hand.
A rubber hand connected to some sort of electronic device. He says, we just need to make some changes. We fear change. And the hand starts twitching, and Garf picks up a hammer and starts smashing it. And in the film, it has no meaning. Apparently there was some deleted subplot about Garf trying to make a robot to kill Benjamin. That got cut from the movie. So it's just this non sequitur, which is hilarious. And rewind, some jokes we missed. Wayne and Garf sitting on the car, stargazing. The shooting star goes by, they're humming the Star Trek theme. She's a babe. She's a robo-babe.
President, she'd be Babe Abraham.
Exactly. When Bugs Bunny would dress up as a girl bunny... Were you ever attracted to that? No! Me neither. Scene reveals they are parked right next to an airport. So when the plane comes in, like, directly over top of them, they just start screaming, "Ah!"
There's actually a part there where you actually see Wayne cracking the hell up.
Yeah.
Well, the joke that you hear before that's not the joke that Dana Carvey actually
They
tells.
were just improvising, and the director cut that together.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a wonderful effect. Seems very natural. They sell out television studio, build a replica of Wayne's basement in a television studio.
Wayne's basement.
Is that weird? Yeah, that's weird.
We're in Wayne's basement, but we're not in Wayne's basement.
Dude, that was a haiku. Hey, we're in Hawaii, laka laka hooga. We're in Texas, partner.
We're in Delaware.
Delaware.
It's
Delaware. What do we do in Delaware? What do you think of the new set, Garf? It's like new underwear. At first, it's constraining, but after a while, it becomes a part of you. Wayne is not happy with the compromises they have to make to get the show on the air. So he gets fired. He challenges Benjamin, and he gets fired. They leave Garf in the studio on the air by himself, and his reaction is, I'm having a good time! Do you remember that scene in Scanners when that dude's head exploded?
No, because I haven't seen that movie.
Earlier in the movie, we're just jumping all the fuck around. It's okay, nobody's listening anyway. In the middle of the movie, after Wayne takes the money, he goes to the guitar shop and he buys the guitar.
And he starts to play Stairway to Heaven.
And the guy walks to him,
taps him on the shoulder,
points to a sign that says, no stairway.
And then Wayne's reply is, no stairway?
Denied.
We have not seen this movie.
This is going on. Garf sits at a drum set and goes into this amazing drum solo, which is really Dana Carvey playing drums. And after it's finished, somebody comes up to him and says, dude, you're amazing. And Garf's response is, I like to play.
And he taps
the symbol. Product placement scene.
Oh my god.
It's like some people only do things to get paid. Talking about the evils of product placement.
While they're doing a major product placement.
Wayne opens up a box of Pizza Hut pizza. Garf is covered head to toe in Reebok gear. That's giving me a headache. Here, take 2 of these.
Small. Yellow.
Different. And it's the voice of a new generation while he holds up a Pepsi can. Another scene that really doesn't have a lot to do with the story, but is hilarious and perfect. If you blow chunks and she comes back, it's love. Garf's dream woman, this beautiful woman he sees, has no actual interaction with the Foxy Lady sequence.
Foxy Lady?
Why is it in the movie? Because it's funny. Benjamin, it's revealed very quickly, is trying to seduce Cassandra, even though her and Wayne are in love. I love the bedroom scene between them. First off, it's hilarious. It's actually kind of sweet and romantic. Benjamin is trying to seduce her. They take the 3 of them, Cassandra, Wayne, and Garf, to his super nice apartment where he goes on about champagne and orders Chinese in Cantonese.
Wayne's like, I'll have the cream of some young guy.
Some young guy. He's talking about the difference between champagne and regular wine. It's like Star Trek, The Next Generation. In some ways, it's much better than the original series, but will never be as iconic. Garf starts talking to the audience. There's going through Benjamin's apartment. Things to do today. Steal and corrupt public access TV show. Well, I'm glad I'm not those guys. One of the things he does to bribe them is he gives them Alice Cooper tickets. And they go to Milwaukee to see Alice Cooper. And before that, they reenact the opening to Laverne and Shirley. Again, why is it in the movie? Because it's funny.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? We've got backstage passes to Alice Cooper.
And actually, that's what the director says on the behind the scenes.
Oh, really?
Why is it in the movie? Because it's funny.
Because it is funny, that's true. And the Alice Cooper scene, we've already talked about it. Brilliant, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We gotta go. No, hang out with us. Okay, we'll hang out with Alice Cooper. Well, I don't know what the guitarist says, but that's right, Pete. Does this guy know how to party? Wayne is fired from the show. Benjamin is attempting to seduce Cassandra. Wayne gets upset about it. They break up. Wayne has an argument with Garf, loses a girl, loses his best friend. All this is middle of the second act drama. And he's talking to the audience like, I'm just being shit on. I'm just being shit on. Even the audience gets fed up. They're trying to get Garf back first, and he's in the donut shop. Hey, Mr. Donut Man, who's trying to kill you? Eat, eat, eat. Oh, I'm not happy. Oh.
Why are you killing me, Mr. Donut Man?
Fucking amazing.
You know, spontaneous room of ninjas. What's that for?
I just always wanted to open a door and see him training people like in a James Bond movie. Wait a minute. No.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. You can't see it, but we stood up. Garf comes up with this plan, like, I'll just reflect the information off of a satellite dish into Mr. Sharp from Sharp Records' limousine. Almost too simple. This crazy, convoluted plot ensues. He runs to Cassandra's music video shoot. He gets pulled over by a cop. This is a pop culture reference that actually has aged pretty well, because the movie is still famous. He gets pulled over, and Robert Patrick, have you seen this boy? Ah! And drives off, and Robert Patrick goes after the car on foot. Random Terminator 2 reference. He goes to the music video shoot, tries to win her back with sincerity. Love you, and the worst thing of all is I never learned to read. Oscar clip. Okay, but where's your band? Her band walks by. Hi, Wayne. Hi, guys. But you and I both know there is no film in this camera. And he opens the camera, and 20 feet of film unspooled just keeps going. And Pete Kerr's funniest line in the movie, is that you or the snake? Of course, she goes with Wayne. Garf and the guys, for some reason, are trying to get Kirk Fuller's character.
The lawn crawl scene.
Guys, I fell on my keys. But Benjamin is my friend. No, Benjamin is no one's friend. If Benjamin was an ice cream flavor, he'd be pralines and dick.
What about when he's holding the flashlight up in a car? He's like, easy now.
Unscrews and drops the batteries. Did we mention Garf's dog? Garf's fucking dog has the same hair as he does. What is it, girl? Is Wayne in a well? Oh, Wayne's outside. Sorry, I misheard you. Anyway, Cassandra performs her song in Wayne's basement, teleport the signal into the backseat of Mr. Sharp's car, and he comes up to her and says, "Well, you're very beautiful and very talented. I'm sorry, I just don't think it's the right time." She looks at him and says, "You ruined my career." And she leaves with Rob Lowe, and then Stacy walks up to Wayne and says, "Wayne, I'm pregnant. That's why I've been acting so erratic here of late." The equipment in the basement sparks, the house burns down. Wade and Garf, covered in soot, step outside of the burning wreckage of the house.
Wayne's holding Garth.
Why, God? Why? You really didn't think she was going to go with Wayne, did you? Rob Lowe, T. Carrera in this amazing tiny bikini talking to him in like a beach. They obviously just spent the night together, and yeah, like we're going to end the movie that way.
Let's try to Scooby-Doo ending.
Need to find out who you really are. Oh, it's old man Withers who runs the abandoned amusement park. And I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you kids. And boy, let's do the mega happy ending. So that's Wayne's World. This is maybe the funniest movie of the 90s.
Funniest movie ever.
It is incredible. I forget how funny this film is every time.
Watch it, you catch a new joke.
Exactly. There are just so many friggin' hilarious moments in this movie that it never gets old. The film was actually a huge success, like one of the highest grossing films of 1992, so a sequel was immediately greenlit. And the next year, 1993, we get Wayne's World 2. What are your thoughts on Wayne's World 2 as a sequel?
It's not as funny. It has its moments.
It's definitely not as good as the first one. I think this one's kind of weak, truth be told.
It has a couple of moments when he's fighting Cassandra's dad.
Let's just go straight to the jokes this time.
But when he's fighting Cassandra's dad...
It becomes a kung fu movie homage, and everybody is poorly dubbed. Of course, that's James Hong as her dad. The joke is overdone and out of place, but it's still one of the funnier moments in the movie. Talking in Cantonese, "Well, if you're going to marry my daughter, I must tell you my name is Jeff." Jeff Hong leaps on his hands down the stairs, and while they're fighting, Wayne, his shirt tears off. He's fighting with swords and tears his pants up.
Before that, he asks Cassandra, "How do you get my clothes so white and sparkly clean?" Ancient Chinese secret.
Yeah. Every time he moves, his hands makes up like a whoosh noise.
Yeah.
There's a phone call. "Sorry, I have call waiting." Whoosh, whoosh. This is not an appropriate time to talk. Funniest moment in the movie. The plot of the film. A year later, Wayne has moved out of his parents' basement into an abandoned doll factory. They have a bust of Shakespeare. They open up, press a button, Batman, fire poles. Garf has gotten his first pube. He's still dating Cassandra, but Wayne feels like he isn't doing anything with his life. He has a dream. In his dream, a weird naked Indian leads him into the desert where he meets the ghost of Jim Morrison, who gives him the idea for a music festival called Wayne Stock. Meanwhile, Cassandra has this music producer played by the one, the only Christopher Walken.
You don't say.
Is attempting to sign her to his label. He plays a very similar role to Rob Lowe's character in the first movie. He's a slimy corporate douchebag who's very duplicitous.
But he's better at it.
Well, yeah, of course, because he's Christopher Walken. And there's that amazing dancing. Walken has a dance in every one of his movies because he was trained as a dancer at the beginning of his career. So every time you watch a Christopher Walken movie, watch for a dance scene. It's in there somewhere. Even if it's just a little two-step, it's in there.
Yeah, it was in Batman Returns. I had to think about that for a minute.
There really are these two plots in the movie. The whole plot about Wayne Stock trying to get these bands that aren't going to sign. And this whole thing about Wayne is uncertain about his relationship with Cassandra, and he's really worried that Christopher Walken is attempting to seduce her.
That makes sense.
And there's actually a third plot in the movie, too, because Garf, Wyatt the laundromat, with his tiny little tighty-whities, meets woman played by Kim Basinger, back when she was still incredible looking, and her name is Honey Hornet, and she attempts to seduce him. And that first scene when they meet in the laundromat really isn't all that funny. Later on, she's trying to seduce him, and that scene is actually pretty good. She hands him a drink of bourbon, and he drinks it and spits it out and says, "This Coke has gone bad." Kim Basinger is doing a sexy dance, and Garf's glasses are fogging up, and "You need to take me someplace." "Where? I'm low on gas, and you need a jacket." "Garf, can I be frank?" "Okay, can I still be Garf?" Apparently the suggestion is that Garf and Miss Hornet have sex. Successfully seduces him even though he's this man-child, this 10-year-old boy stuck in a 20-year-old body. But the next morning, even though he has the crazy Garf hair and the glasses, he's in this robe, and he has a pipe. He's like, "Good morning, dear." Of course, the joke is that it's a bubble pipe. The whole point of this is she's trying to seduce him into killing her husband. And Fatal Attraction, Basic Instincts. I mean, all those movies are popular at the time, so I guess they were spoofing that. But that plot doesn't really go anywhere after a while.
Yeah.
One of the problems with this movie is there isn't that cohesion.
Was it even the same director?
No, it wasn't. Not Penelope Cheapest.
That was the problem.
Yeah, I think it might have been. There are some decent jokes. They go to Stan Mikita's Donuts, and they have a drive-thru with a talking Stan Mikita head. "If we get your order wrong, you get to eat free." They intentionally script the order by this getting other word. Person on the other end gets it perfect. Why in the dream with Jim Morrison, Wayne asked Jim Morrison, when will Garf's Sports Illustrated football phone arrive? It was sent to the wrong house. It'll arrive soon along with the Stanley Cup tape and the swimsuit issue. And of course the next morning, that's good. Wayne is telling Christopher Walken's character about Wayne stock. He's trying to think of what bands they'll get, and he's just looking around the room at the CDs and posters. Aerosmith and Pearl Jam and Van Halen will be there. Wow, really, that's impressive. Who else? An old man carving a kayak out of a log? And Rip Taylor! Cassandra says, in my home country, he's a god. One of the things about the movie that doesn't really work as well for me is there's too many meta elements. The first movie, there was the whole thing with the audience, that was meta. But in this movie, there's the whole joke about, well, we're just moving this plate of glass back and forth, and our job is to keep this fruit stand stacked with watermelons. He's trying to get directions to the church at the end. This actor sucks. Can we get a better actor? And they move in Charlton Heston. Now, it's awesome. Charlton Heston's funny. At the same time, like, this is trying a little too hard, I feel. JD's shaking his head. Yes, you can't see that.
Well, yes, Zach. Yes, it is pushing the envelope a little too much.
One of the things I do like about the movie is the character of Del Preston, the ultimate roadie. I don't know the name of the actor, but he's kind of a weird character.
There I am in Sri Lanka, formerly Ceylon, at 3 o'clock in the morning, looking for 1,000 brown M&Ms to fill a brandy glass, or Ozzy wouldn't go on stage that night. So, Jeff Beck pops his head round the door and mentions there's a little sweet shop on the edge of town. So, we go, and it's closed. So there's me and Keith Moon and David Crosby breaking into this little sweet shop, right? Well, instead of a guard dog, they've got this bloody great big Bengal tiger. Well, I managed to take out the tiger with a can of mace. But the shop owner and his son, that's a different story altogether. I had to beat them to death with their own shoes. Nasty business, really. But sure enough, I got the M&Ms, and Ozzy went on stage and did a great show.
He opens up roadie boot camp, which involves them shooting tennis balls at people, and Chris Farley's there. It's pretty funny. You know,
Why are you here? Why don't you go home?
I got nowhere else to go!
One of the best Chris Farley things ever, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah. A lot of the jokes fall flat. In the beginning of the movie, when they're backstage of Aerosmith, there's these two nerds that confront them. That joke's not funny. There's a Jurassic Park reference, which is nowhere near as good as the T2 reference from the first movie. There's a whole joke about Kenny G, where Garf is getting his teeth drilled. A lot of the jokes kind of fall flat. But then there are some jokes that are awesome, like, I'm the leprechaun! I want to leave, but can't! Chris Farley has an awesome role. He meets them at a bar at Comrades, this communist bar, starts talking to him, and then says, I'm gonna go get in a fight! And Wayne and Garf look at each other and says, he's doing a lot better. Or the Village People gag, Wayne spying on Cassandra makes him kind of look like a dick.
Yeah, but they address it, though, so it's okay.
Yeah, she just punch him in the face, which is funny. Ending of the movie is dry, because they're parodying The Graduate, where Wayne goes to interrupt the wedding, and it's funny when he goes to the wrong church at first. You know, Christopher Walken says, you crazy punk! That's funny. They repeat the ending gag, but it's not as good. Thelma and Louise ending.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody shows up for Wayne Stock, so it's a huge fiasco. Hey, let's do the happy ending, where a Murph limo pulls up and Aerosmith gets out. This one, not as good. Though I do love the scene where Jim Morrison in the dream, and he's there with Sammy Davis Jr. discussing the Kennedy assassination. And the movie needed more oddball stuff like that. Not as good.
What about the post-credit scene?
Oh, with the Indian? Dude, we're gonna clean it up. I did like that. I liked Rip Taylor talking about the Doors.
What, do you think we'll get a third film ever?
Mike Myers and Dana Carvey have talked about it. The MTV Music Awards, they dressed up as Wayne and Garf and did like a revival of those characters. Mike Myers, now that his career has kind of gone down the shitter because of a couple of bombs he did, in between The Cat in the Hat and The Love Guru, supposedly written in Wayne's World 3, he's supposedly written in Austin Powers 4, which is going back to that well way too many times. I don't know if we'll get it. It seems unlikely. And if we do, I don't know if we need it.
You know what I think?
What do you think?
I think that Wayne should meet Austin Powers.
That would be difficult to do and bizarre and stupid. No, that's a terrible idea. What would a third film be about? Wayne and Garf are middle-aged, they have a normal life, they haven't seen each other in years. For whatever reason, they run into each other again, and suddenly
Garth finally got a second pube.
they're back to being themselves, and I don't know, they go on a quest to save rock and roll or something. I'm not sure. I don't know if we need it, though. The first film stands strong enough on its own.
Yeah, there could be some potential there if it's kids.
Oh, no, I don't want to see Wayne's World Jr.
No, I don't mean it like that. My vision is Wayne and Garth were still stuck in the 90s. They'd still dress like that and everything.
The only way it could be funny is if they have kids and their kids are really super successful, and they're still stuck in the early 90s. Now, those are the really important ones. violence. Now, I'm going to talk a little about this next one. Have you seen Airheads from 1994?
A long time ago, about a year ago.
Alright, I'm going to talk about this briefly. The plot of the movie is 3 heavy metal morons accidentally hold a radio station hostage. They have a band. It's named the Lone Rangers, and that's a reoccurring joke. Can they be lone if there are more than one of them? Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and a young Adam Sandler. Going into this movie, I didn't remember a whole lot about it, and I'm actually surprised at how much I liked it.
Oh, it's hilarious.
There are a lot of good elements. Brendan Fraser's character, his psychotic girlfriend kicks him out of their house. This is one of the things that eggs him on to take this demo tape to this heavy metal station, and they accidentally end up taking it hostage. But he's a weirdly sincere character. If Wayne was bitter, Wild Stallions never happened, and Bill just grew up to be a bitter old man, that's who this character would be. I could see that in there. And Steve Buscemi is actually really great in this movie. He works in a toy store, he steals stuff from the toy store all the time, he has these squirt guns that were recalled because they're too realistic looking, but he fills them full of Tabasco sauce, and that becomes an important plot element. Adam Sandler's character is like a Garf, because he's slow, but he sometimes says things that are insightful, and he has this weirdly apologetic, and he's always apologizing to the people they've taken hostage. Michael McKean plays the manager of the radio station. He's an asshole with a pony nub instead of a ponytail. Chris Farley's in this movie too. He plays a put-upon deputy. At one point, he has to go to a heavy metal band where White Zombie's playing. He knocked into the mosh pit. He tears a guy's bull ring off. Ernie Hudson plays a cop, and Harold Ramis has a cameo. So you've got half a Ghostbusters reunion in this movie. David Arquette's in the movie. He plays a guy who works at the station doing something. When you first introduced to him, he's on the phone talking about how many Clydesdales it will take to tear your face off. Michael Richards, the guy who plays Kramer, is in the movie.
I was going to say, isn't Kramer in this?
Kramer's in the movie. His character's like if John McClane was a neurotic Jewish man. He's in the ducts of the radio station. He accidentally sets himself on fire. A weird, funny subplot. So it's directed by Michael Lehman, who also directed Heathers. We haven't talked about it on the show, but we love that movie.
Corn nuts! Sorry.
Both of these films have a weird interest in clique-specific dialogue. These heavy metal guys speak their own language, and some of the dialogue is really bizarre and funny. I wrote some of this down. Shut up, dick smoke. Bag that, chit witch, I ain't farting on a snare drum, half a butt puppet, let's not gank anyone, dick cheeseburger. There's a funny sequence, because these guys take over this radio station, but they kind of become these cult figures. This heavy metal station's about to turn into a soft rock station, and they're trying to prevent this. Brendan Fraser's character's outside, yelling to the crowd. They make crazy demands from the police, like get a naked picture of B. Arthur. He was secretly a nerd in high school, so this leads to the crowd confessing to nerd things. One guy yells, I used to masturbate constantly, which does not get much of a response, because everybody does that. I used to play D&D, and like Lemmy from Motorhead is there and says, I used to collect insects. I don't know, it could be true. There's an angry black man who works at the radio station. He's funny. Adam Sandler is surprisingly good in this film. He steps outside.
Well, this was back in the time when it was funny,
yeah,
Adam Sandler.
when Adam Sandler was still funny. Because he steps outside of the radio station, there's a cop there, and they do like Groucho Marx mirror gag for a few minutes. He asks a black woman, why don't black people like me? There's a Beavis and Butthead cameo too, which is sort of amusing. Airheads, surprisingly good. Definitely a dude movie. Even though there's 3 of them, it's totally a dude movie.
You know what I have to say about this next movie?
What?
Hey, baby, you ever had your asshole licked by a fat guy in an overcoat?
My God.
That's in the movie!
I know it's in the movie! If Bill and Ted and Wayne and Garth are the most triumphant examples of dudes in cinema, what's the third example of the most iconic dude duet?
Jay and... He wouldn't say his name because he's silent.
Yeah, Jay and Silent Bob. Now, before we move on to this movie, let's just have a brief discussion about Kevin Smith in general. What's your thoughts on Kevin Smith as a filmmaker?
Overall, I enjoy most of his films.
You know,
I said most. I'm a big fan of Mallrats, which actually should have probably been on this.
Yeah, all of his movies have a pair of guys who are best friends. Dante and Randall in the Clerks films, Brody and whatever the guy's name is, and Mallrats. I have some issues with Kevin Smith. One of the things that really bothers me about his movies is I think he has some issues with women. In Clerks, the big problem between Dante and his girlfriend is the fact that he's insecure that she slept with more men than he has. And in Chasing Amy, Ben Affleck becomes insecure about Amy because she was promiscuous in high school. He's insecure about the fact that she has more sexual experience than he does. Mallrats, Shannon Doherty's a hag. And even in Clerks 2...
Well, that's probably closer to real life.
That's probably true to real life. That's not the point. And in Clerks 2, Dante's wife is preventing him from being happy. Even in this movie, there's a little bit of that because there's the walking bad girl cliches. It's fixing my teeth. And of course, Kevin Smith is the guy in his comic book writing who made a rape part of the Black Cat's origin. I guess it shouldn't matter, but it bothers me.
Well, I don't let that kind of stuff bother me. Chasing Amy was just god-awful.
Yeah, it's definitely his worst film.
Don't even mention Jersey Girl.
Yeah, that was weak. What'd you think of Red State?
Red State was interesting.
Kevin Smith is probably a topic that deserves its own show, but we're going to talk about Jay and Silent Bob now because they're dudes. The movie gives an origin for Jay and Silent Bob. They're left in front of the quick stop as babies. Who are watching these kids? Oh, I don't know. The fat one's watching the little one. Jay's first word as a child was fuck. And the whole story begins with them getting banned in front of the quick stop. It weaves together all the previous Kevin Smith movies. Dante and Randall are there. Jason Lee plays both his character from Mallrats and his character from Chasing Amy. Ben Affleck plays his character from Chasing Amy and himself. From Dogma, there is a Buddy Christ, Mooby the Golden Calf. Amy shows up, the gay black guy shows up, Alanis Morissette as God appears at the very end. It's one of Kevin Smith's most enjoyable films because he just straight up said, let's be goofy, and let's not really care about doing anything serious at all. A live-action cartoon. Though there is that scene where Jay straight up farts into the camera. Ass is on the camera, farts on the camera. That was slightly unnecessary, I think. They get banned from the quick stop. They somehow find out that they're making a movie out of Blunt Man and Chronic, a comic book based off of Jay and Silent Bob. They don't know what the internet is. Ben Affleck's character from Chasing Amy has to explain to them that the internet is a place where people complain about movies and share pornography, which is true. They're going to stop this movie from getting made, ostensibly because they're not going to get paid, but more because they don't want people on the internet making fun of them. Now, at the time, we thought Kevin Smith was kidding about when he go around and beat up everybody who makes fun of him on the internet, but since then, it's become obvious that he is 100% serious about, with his Twitter complaining about critics. He wants to kill the trolls on the internet. On their quest to go to Hollywood, Jay and Silent Bob have a bunch of wacky adventures. There's repeated jabs at Miramax. There's a lot of meta humor in this movie. Who would be stupid enough to pay to see a movie about Jay and Silent Bob? They're one-note characters. Why would I want to keep writing about characters whose sole preoccupation are weed and dick jokes?
What's wrong with that?
They make repeated references about them being one-note characters, like lots of that stuff. But I do love that repeated gag about Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms.
Affleck was bombing Phantoms, yo!
Affleck rockin' in Phantoms, yo! George Carlin's cameo as the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
You have to follow the rules of the book, which leads to Carrie Fisher's cameo as a nun. Like, do you live by the book? Well, you picked us up, so I guess we had to. Which leads to the Scooby-Doo scene. Now, at the time, a live-action Scooby-Doo movie had not yet come out, so I think Kevin Smith was making fun of that. Weirdly accurate. And on the way to Hollywood, they get involved with this quartet of girls who are pretending to be crazy animal activists, but are actually just jewel thieves. Those three characters are Shannon Elizabeth, Elijah Dushku,
Which was hot back at the time.
Allie Larder, and
Which wasn't.
Mrs. Kevin Smith.
Which definitely wasn't.
Definitely sticks out, doesn't wear the tight leather as well as the other three do. They basically go along with this because Jay is enamored with Shannon Elizabeth's character. He's so stupid that he doesn't realize they're setting him up as a patsy. In fact, when they get in the van, they already have another patsy, which is Sean William Scott's cameo. Maybe the funniest thing Sean William Scott has ever done. Singing songs about, hey there, Mr. Science Guy, don't spray that chemical in my eye, 'cause I don't want to die. I'm a noble rabbit. I don't know why that always cracks me up, and Jay tricks him into admitting that he wants to fuck sheep. There are two devils on Jay's shoulder, because they have to convince him not to pull his dick out in front of this girl. I've been stealing monkeys since I was 7. The place where the jewels are hidden is right next to an animal testing facility. So they pretend to be the Coalition for the Liberation of Inuit Tree Dwellers. Now what does that spell, JD?
Clit.
One of many, many crude jokes. Unlike the previous 4 films, this movie is not afraid of profanity and dick jokes. Jay and Silent Bob steal an orangutan, which leads on its own wacky, crazy plot. They get separated from the bad girls. Jay has affectionately dubbed Shannon Elizabeth's character Boo Boo Kitty Fuck. So they have this orangutan, and who is chasing after them?
Will Ferrell.
Yeah, Will Ferrell as Marshall Willenholly, which is a reference to Land of the Lost, of all things. Ironic, since Will Ferrell wound up starring in the Land of the Lost movie. And this is his own wacky plot, where he's trying to hunt them down. There's a scene where he's having a double entendre-filled interview with Jon Stewart, one of many cameos. Silent Bob immediately bonds with the orangutan.
Yeah.
The police corner them in a diner, and Jay's like, give him the monkey, and Silent Bob hugs the monkey and shakes his head, no, don't make me give away my monkey. There's an elaborate Planet of the Apes reference, which is actually pretty funny. In this future, we will not spank the monkey will spank us! Where Dante's getting his head cut open, like, I'm not even supposed to be here today! Anyway, they're in the diner, they convince Will Ferrell that they're a gay couple, and the monkey is their adopted love child, and he says, I'm not actually gay, I still fuck chicks, but Lunchbox over here, he just loves the cock. Will Ferrell's reaction is, well, he certainly looks insatiable.
This movie, man.
Flee, fat ass, flee! He gets stuck in the sewer pipe, just like Winnie the Pooh. It leads to the fugitive sequence. At one point, Their monkey gets put in a van that says Critters of Hollywood on the back, and Jay's like, who the fuck would steal a monkey? And Silent Bob's trying to tell him that it's headed to Hollywood, because apparently Jay can't read. And you can tell that fucking Amy story all the time, but you can't say something like, the monkey went over there, or like, yo, those are some good cheese fries. Anyway, this gets us back on track with the real plot, with them trying to go to Hollywood to stop the movie. So now we're back to this being a parody of Hollywood films. They get to Hollywood, they get on Merrimack's a lot. Dietrich Bader has a very funny small role as a security guard, where he talks about disappearing a dead hooker from Affleck's trailer. Oh, that Affleck, that scamp. Bullshit, I wasn't with a hooker last night. An E! News reporter is reading a censored version of a very profane message Jay and Silent Bob left on an internet forum. We will expletive delete it down their throats and make them expletive delete, and then make them eat that expletive delete that is made up of our expletive deleted until, you know... Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are on the set of Good Will Hunting 2 hunting season. That is the best thing about the movie. The production assistant says to him, do not look Ben or Matt directly in the eyes. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are doing this lion face, lemon face, ooh, lion face, Gus Van Sant, the original director of Good Will Hunting, is there counting a giant pile of money. What did I tell you? You'd be in here regurgitating Gordon Wood. How do you like them apples? I don't like them apples, Will. And then they wander onto the set of Scream 4, which was prophetic. Scream 4 didn't exist then, it does now. Shannon Doherty's there. Killer is played by the orangutan. Wes Craven's reaction is, people love monkeys. When Jay and Silent Bob rush in, steal the orangutan, and Wes Craven says, see?
Well, what's funny about that, though, is that on Scream 3... Jay and Silent Bob make a cameo.
They wander onto the set of the Jay and Silent Bob movie, where Jason Biggs and James Vanderbeek are playing Jay and Silent Bob. James Vanderbeek makes repeated references to Dawson's Creek. He has since played himself in other things on that show, Don't Trust the Bitches in Apartment Whatever.
Yeah, Don't Trust to Be in Apartment 23.
Yeah, he played himself on that as well. And Jason Biggs is constantly referred to as the guy who fucked the pie. Eventually, they do get to the set of Blunt Man and Chronic movie, which is being directed by Chris Rock as this... I think he's supposed to be like a Spike Lee parody. It isn't funny. It's one of the weaker jokes in the movie. They're in costume, the wall explodes.
And Mark Hamill.
Hey kids, it's Mark Hamill! Mark Hamill, what's his character's name?
Ball Crusher?
Cockknocker.
Cockknocker. That's close.
He has a giant hand. Why do they call you Cockknocker? Oh, it's actually a funny story about BAM! And that whole sequence is pretty awesome, them fighting with lightsaber bongs. It's totally crude, bottom-of-the-barrel stuff, but it works. Mark Hamill helps. He's pretty amusing.
Yeah.
He gets his hand cut off, and his reaction is, looks right into the camera and says, not again.
Mark Hamill has no shame. Yeah, bitches, that's right. I was in Star Wars.
Finally, the plots about the bad girls and the monkey all come together. Will Ferrell gets shot in the ass by the orangutan. There's a cat fight between Shannon Elizabeth and Elijah Dushku.
Which is hot.
Bob has his obligatory speech. Jason Lee shows up again. The movie comes out. People leave the theater going, it was a 90-minute gay joke, which is, of course, a Batman and Robin reference.
I know.
What did Jay and Silent Bob do with the money they earned from the film?
They went around and found all those... Are you so-and-so?
Are you Magnolia Fan 69 at moviepoopshoot.com? Yeah. They beat up a bunch of kids. They beat up a priest.
Which is what you and I would do if we...
I'm not going to beat up people who make fun of me on the internet. What's the point?
I was trying to scare the people that talk shit about us.
It's what the internet is for. I think we've said enough about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, haven't you?
I think so.
Yeah, Snoochie Boochies.
Snoochie Boochies.
If you totally radical dudes want to, like, get contact with us or something,
you can like us on Facebook.
Yeah, like us, man.
Like the Bangers and Mash show.
If there are any dudes we left out and you want to talk about, feel free to email us at bangersinmash88@yahoo.com. Have you checked the email recently?
No.
I forgot the password. You can email us. There's no guarantee we'll get back to you.
I don't remember the password anymore either.
I wrote it down somewhere. Oh well, it's on. Your feedback is important except when it isn't. I think that's going to be the show this week. Party on, Mr. Mash.
Party on, Mr. Bangers.
And be excellent to each other.
Snoochie Boochies.
Movie, alright.
Good one.
Alright, well that's all the time we have for our movie. We hope you found it entertaining, whimsical and yet relevant, with an underlying revisionist conceit that belied the film's emotional attachments to the subject matter.
I just hope you didn't think it sucked.
Okay, so thank you for coming. Good night and party on.
Party on, Wayne.
Party on, guard.